Whether we are there or not, ITSP Magazine still gets the best stories. Plenty of conferences and events spark our curiosity and allow us to start conversations with some of the world's brightest minds. In person or virtually, Sean Martin and Marco Ciappelli go on location and sit down with them at the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society. Together, we discover what the synergy of these three elements means for the future of humanity. ThreatLocker is a zero-trust endpoint protection platform, providing enterprise-level cybersecurity to organizations globally. With ThreatLocker, you only allow only what you need and block everything else, including ransomware. Learn more at threatlocker.com.
Good. I'll double check the sound here.
Did you push play?
I did. Well, record.
Play. Just play the record.
All right, sound check again.
Sound check.
Perfect.
Yeah.
We're rolling.
I don't get better at this.
That's cool. We don't prepare.
No.
All right. You want that under your arm?
Yeah. This is why I always accept talking to these guys.
Yeah. There's no script.
Organized chaos is what
Exactly. Or trying to make there is a system to the madness, right?
Yeah.
All right.
For sure.
All right.
So is that part of this?
I think
are we rolling already?
I have no idea. I feel like my life is on record anyway.
I know. We're always recording.
Yeah.
Always recording. Well, we're here at the AISA CyberCon event in Melbourne.
I think we just call it ASA though.
ASA?
Yeah, no one calls it AISA.
I call
just
it AISA.
No.
Don't be that guy, Sean.
No, just get into it. Get into it. It's been ASA since the beginning of time.
All right, see?
Yeah.
That's why I'm here, to learn.
Yeah.
To learn.
That's important.
That's my learning of the day.
Yeah.
We had a good chat with JJ. I learned a bunch of stuff from her too, which was really
good.
cool. But ASA, here we go.
Yeah.
ASA, AU CyberCon in Melbourne. You're one of the first members of ASA.
I am.
What does that mean? What's that?
Wow.
Well, who are you, first off?
So
What are we doing here?
I don't know.
Jinan Budge, our good friend from Forrester.
Jinan Budge, Vice President at Forrester Research. I lead our security and risk research in Asia Pacific, and globally I'm spearheading a lot of our research on what we're now calling human-centered security, which includes all manner of things such as human risk management, awareness, behavior, culture, but also very importantly the culture of security teams themselves, leadership issues impacting CISOs, the future of the CISO, so on and so forth. It's the world is my oyster, I think, with that particular topic.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I do a sub-series, Human-Centered Cybersecurity, with Julie Haney. I don't know if you've seen that.
No.
Sub-series. She's from NIST, and we look specifically at the research of the human element connected to cyber. So maybe you'll be a guest on our.
Yeah.
Years ago when I started working in cybersecurity with Sean, I was talking about the human element a lot, and nobody listened to me.
Yeah.
And now everybody's just talking about the human element.
But
I'm like, well,
sure
thank you.
The first time I interviewed with both of you was when I first joined Forrester. It was at RSA and in San Francisco, and I think we talked about security culture at the time.
For sure.
And I remember I published my first report on security culture, and one of the things we measure at Forrester is readership, and it completely bombed, completely. And I remember doing this recon and asking our clients, well, what's wrong with that? I thought it was a great report. They were like, no, it's great, but the word culture, we updated it to talk about the human firewall, and readership just shot through the roof. So culture, people, even 7 years ago was so taboo. But didn't let that stop me. I kept on going.
No, we gotta get going.
We've now killed the human firewall terminology for lots of different reasons. Because I know that the space has progressed, and it needed to have progressed, and we say the future is now, and but the future really was a long time ago. We're finally starting to move there. in the human-centered.
So back to my first question. Thank you for all of that.
Yes.
One of the first members of ASA.
Yeah, I think I've got my badge. So ASA started out, I'm sure someone would have given you the history, as the Information Security Group. And it was just a bunch of well-meaning cybersecurity citizens. There was about 20 of them. They got together and said, hey, this security thing is becoming quite a thing. This was 25 years ago, and we're all going to get together and create a community of practice. I wasn't part of that. I was the next generation that came in, I think 5 years after, but I think I'm member number 71 or 77. I've got the ASA badge with my membership number on it. It was adorable, and I was in Sydney at the time, and we used to have, we started doing events, I want to say such as this one, but they looked nothing like this one. We just got the community together and topics that were hot at the time and finding amazing speakers. And then I ended up moving from the Sydney Organising Committee to be on the board of what then became ASA. And my job was to grow the organisation. I think we ended up at the time, by the time I left my tenure there, we grew the organisation to 600 members. And we thought that was amazing. So to look at it now, I don't know, 15 years later, and to see what is today is pretty incredible.
Yeah, for sure.
It was just such an unheard of thing, security back at the time, if you all remember, 25 years ago. And in Australia, it was such a nascent thing. I remember going into meetings, into what we called the member meetings, and I would be literally one of the only women that would walk into a room of 200 people, and my other friend and I would just link each other's arms, and just, it was terrifying as a young person coming into this industry.
Interesting. Sad that we have to think about that. But I want to thank you for doing that work then. Yeah. Because it led us to this moment. I mean, nearly, I think around 5,500 people or so at the conference this year. I can't remember how many speakers there are, but tons of great topics, tons of great work taking place. We're meeting a lot of people. We get to see. I don't want to say old friends. Yes. But long-time friends. Long-standing friends. But so you've seen a lot of change. I don't know if you want to look at Australia specifically, or the greater APJ, APAC region.
Or the greater world.
Or the greater world. What are some of the things you've seen progress over the last few years or so? And some things that haven't as well. Perhaps. There's I mean, what has really progressed is how elevated cybersecurity has become in organisations and boards everywhere. I know that's stating the blatantly obvious, but it really, that has been a progression that I never expected in my career. You know, I remember when I first joined cybersecurity, I joined a team called Electronic Data Processing Audit. That was the beginning, which then evolved to information security. So it's had lots of different names. It wasn't always cybersecurity, obviously. So board level attention, citizen attention. We're starting to really understand the impact of cybersecurity on citizens. With that comes the much deeper understanding, and in Australia we're just beginning that understanding of the impact of geopolitics and geopolitical risks on all of us. You know, this is no longer some kind of a back office function where you hire a security manager as a tick in the box, and that is definitely an evolution that I've seen. It's not a security dude or dudette anymore, although it was never a dudette, it was always a security dude. This is a business level function that is entrusted with building trust for the organization. That's quite significant. Right.
Yeah, it is. And you know, looking back, when we started ITSP Magazine, you know, there was the idea of looking at society, cybersecurity. Yes. Then we added technology, because you can't have technology without cybersecurity, or at least you shouldn't. Let's put it that way. And you shouldn't not have technology without thinking about the consequences for society.
Yep.
And that now it's all together, it could be a culture. So maybe it was a scary word years ago, but now that's what it's about. It's become part of who we are. And I think it's part of the investment on the business side. It's about making operational, but also worrying about the future of our kids and our society and how we live our life.
Yep. And I still don't know, it's so interesting. I love the intersection of people, society, technology. I don't think just as yet we know well enough about how our actions as security leaders in organizations have impact on the whole of society.
Yeah.
And I think for me that is a commitment for myself for my next year's research agenda. What is the CISO's role, if at all any, in ensuring cybersecurity, cyber safety of society? I know we each do it for our own organizations, and or at least we say we do, but I think that values-led, human-centered, knowing that humans are at the center of every single thing that we do in cybersecurity, including the impact of society and so on.
No.
So I'm going to rip the human element out of this for a second.
Yes.
Thanks.
Please.
That's what I like.
Always going to count on you on that.
I know.
Do it.
So a couple things that I've heard over the last number of months. A lot of focus on small, medium business.
Yes.
So we mentioned the CISO, we mentioned board.
Yeah.
Those two things don't always, well, maybe the board, but they don't always apply to the smaller businesses.
Yeah.
They don't have cybersecurity teams. They may or may not have IT, which may or may not provide cyber services as part of the IT services.
Yeah.
Your view on that part of the societal, the ecosystem of delivering capabilities to society. And in there, because the supply chain, there's been a lot, at least in the US, a lot of talk about supply chain, which these third party, or these smaller organizations are third parties as part of the bigger picture. So some of your views on that space, that
completely underrepresented, completely underrepresented, including by myself as well. So I serve enterprise clients, and my coverage isn't so focused on supply chain issues, but I think just generally in cybersecurity we are completely not paying enough attention to that particular situation. Our National Cybersecurity Strategy that was published last year has got significant focus in Australia on small to medium businesses, and I really welcome that. In terms of what is happening in practice though, I don't know, but I don't think that there is enough happening.
Right. Because I know I've been looking at third-party risk management for a long time.
Yes.
Personally.
Yeah.
And to me, it's a culture. So I'm going to bring the human.
Oh, you're bringing it back.
I'm bringing it back.
Yeah.
Now, because it is a culture. It is people understanding their role within the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Do you think that's an enterprise-driven thing? Do you think the enterprise has the opportunity to extend their understanding of cybersecurity and risk management to their third-party partners? And government's role perhaps in that?
I don't know that it's just an opportunity. I think it's an obligation, right? Okay. It's an obligation. And again, extending this focus that cybersecurity, it's not just about the immediate team, the immediate technology. It extends well beyond ourselves. And the more we can understand about those whom we serve, those whom we are connected with, and how everything is interconnected, the better we all will be.
Yeah. So, from a global perspective, you have different culture. Again, I like that word.
Yeah.
And a different involvement for political reason on how much it's driven by regulation, how much the government get involved. I know Australia has a pretty deep involvement of the government in kind of leading the way for small, medium business, I believe.
Which is very recent. It hasn't always done so. Yeah.
Some other country, they're not even there yet. The European community, maybe a little bit more hands-on after the GDPR.
Yeah.
So Well, you kind of already answered my question. We're not there yet.
No, we're not there yet. And it's so important, you know, you asked before about what perspectives do I have on Asia Pacific as a region, and it's just sometimes, like when my vendors ask me questions, when my multinational corporations ask me questions, it's really difficult to even call APJ or Asia Pacific, whatever you call it, a region. There are so many different regulations, cultures, languages, business practices. When I run roundtables or keynotes in each of the countries in Asia Pacific, it is incredible how different and how diverse they are. So I was in Indonesia a few months ago, and it was just remarkable to see some of the issues that are impacting them. They had their first ever Data Protection Act. So the CISOs there who were probably more like what we called CISOs in Australia 15 years ago, and maybe in the US 25 years ago. So they're, you know, still developing their management, their leadership, their business skills. So they were spending all of their time actually responding to the new Data Protection Act and doing a series of compliance-related activities, which to me was quite remarkable considering what I think some of the threats in that particular region are. So Indonesia is one of the most populous countries on earth. They've had democratic elections. The impact and the potential for misinformation, disinformation campaigns is huge in that particular country, and we've still got regulations that are coming up to speed, business cultures that are coming up to speed, security practices that are coming up to speed. It's really interesting. And then how we all operate and how we can all support the different geographies and practices. I think it's going to be really important.
Having built products and then even more importantly bringing them to market, I'm always having an argument in my head of, is the market ready for certain things?
Yep.
And I see this changing all over different regions as well. Data protection might be important. AI security is a topic that seems to get a lot of attention, maybe some investments. The network's still a thing. Do we focus enough there? SIM, I don't know. There's lots of technologies and categories, and I guess my question is, how do you see the vendors responding to these changes of what do we build? Is the market ready for what we've built? Is there money available to buy the stuff that we built?
and it's so I am very deeply covering what we're now calling the human risk management market at Forrester globally. It was security awareness and training. In February this year, we made the call to transition that to human risk management, which is almost an entirely updated mindset and technological shift from the olden day security awareness and training solutions. Really, really cool disruption is happening, particularly coming out of the UK, the Nordics, and the US. How are the vendors responding in Australia? I don't know, do we even exist here? I know some of the big ones operate here, but they will operate here under their traditional security, legacy security awareness and training, not the updated capabilities. Are they in Asia Pacific? Nope, there is not enough money to be made there. So the vendors are chasing not what society needs, not what industry needs. And I don't want to say this generally, but generally, that is what's happening. And I can completely understand it in some ways, but in other ways it's like, come on, you could actually make so much more money if you focus on what people need rather than your immediate, you know, what's going to make you money at the end of this year. And that's been, at least in the market that I cover, that's been very, very disappointing, because Asia Pacific remains completely underserved in more innovative technologies and solutions.
So I've seen some posts on social media, so I want to get your perspective on this, around security awareness training and some, I don't know where the data came from, but there's some chatter on LinkedIn that it's not working.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's what you are seeing, that it's not achieving whatever success was defined as, or it's achieving what it was designed to do, but not what it really should do, maybe to your point?
Yeah.
Or the future is coming and we just need to kind of hold on and see where things are going to really achieve what we want it to. Yeah. So I don't know. So your thoughts on where we stand with.
So they're not thoughts. This is 7 years of research now that has led us to this point. One of the things. So in 2022, we published The Future of Security Awareness and Training, after research that we did on the regulations and frameworks that ask organizations around the world to do security awareness and training. And we discovered many things that I think are potentially the root cause of the lack of effectiveness of security awareness and training as we knew it. One of them is when we looked, we actually examined 45. And by we, I mean one of my poor researchers. His name is Kevin, unfortunately no longer with us, not my fault. But he went through 45 of these things. And
we know why then.
Yeah, it was a pretty tough research project for the poor guy. And I'll always be grateful to him. But we looked across those 45 and we looked at the purpose of the control of security awareness and training. And the purpose was to make people aware, to train them. The word behavior change was mentioned 0 times in all 45. The word culture, 0 times. And that to me was a red flag. It's like, we're training people. Why? Have we all forgotten why we're training people? We also looked at the dates that these things were published, and 17 of them were published over a decade ago. A lot of them, most of them were, not most of them, a lot of them were also published over 2 decades ago, before iPhones were invented. So this is not cool. We are trying to solve an old problem, but one that is really changing, particularly with the advancement of AI technology, in a really old way. So we can't do that. We just can't do it. Then when you ask people, well, how do you measure the effectiveness of security awareness and training? What are you doing? And I have done this myself, by the way, so this is zero criticism of all of us. I have been there. We measure effectiveness, according to NIST study, by completion rates. How many people have completed their training program? And that's kind of the equivalent of saying, Jinan has read all of the books on diets and she is now thin and beautiful and fit. It's like, it's not how it works. Reading something and behavior change, they're very different things.
Or how many hours do you have flying a plane?
For example.
Yeah.
All of those things.
But no tests completed.
Yeah. And then when I received briefings from some vendors, and this was in the early days, and I'm looking at their awareness and training things, and I'm like, this isn't effective. They're like, what do you mean? People gave it 4.85 stars, and it's like, but we're not in the business of entertainment.
Well, I think the issue is, are you memorizing or are you actually understanding?
Correct. Right? Are they changing behavior?
Exactly.
So they were the original things that we put forward, and at the same time, I started talking to some smaller startups, and we were very fortunate at Forrester at the time that I was able to include startups in my evaluative research, and so I did, because the startups were showing me this thing, and I'm like, what is this amazing technology? What is it doing? It didn't have a name, and it was so different from just training people. So what I started seeing is this technology that would integrate with security solutions to see people's behaviors. So are you, Sean, does he use multi-factor authentication? Does he enable his VPN? Does he do all of the good things that we train him on? If you don't, at that point, then we can intervene via training or via a policy update. Like, oh my God, this is a game changer. So we can go from training all of the people on all of the security things that they may or may not care about, that may or may not be relevant to them, to being really contextualized and adaptive in our training. With loads and loads, hundreds of conversations with my vendor community, with my clients, with end user community, we announced then the name of the market, which is human risk management. Far from perfect, but it represents the idea that there is a risk that is posed by and to humans, and that we need to support humans through that risk. And we do so via training them at the right time, the right context for the right person, or sometimes we can support them by intervening via policy change. And that is, for me, this is a game changer. Very early infancy, like this is, you know, this is the space for innovators and early adopters at the moment, both from vendor and enterprise side. When we expect 4 to 8 years' time, that evolves to then what we are terming adaptive people protection, which is the idea that the concept, this amazing idea that technology, people, processes all come together to protect humans with minimal or no effort on their part. That was a lot.
And that's that connect with the first conversation we had today with JJ.
Yeah.
You know, 10 skills you need to have that nothing to do with technology in order to be cyber secure. And she used the reference to teaching kids how to behave on the road. And then finally they get the driver license, they go around, but they've been on the road for a while. You can't expect somebody to just learn everything in one shot.
No. Have you guys done a security awareness and training course? I still do them every year, and I fail all the time. I've got 2 university degrees. I've got all my security qualifications. I work in this space and I failed them. I cannot.
Yeah. That's crazy. We expect too much from people, maybe.
Yeah. We absolutely do. And I used to walk around repeating in organizations that I'd worked at and security teams that I'd led, security is everyone's responsibility. I'm taking that back, and that has been very controversial in the community, because of course it is. That's how you build a culture. I'm not saying kill that, but let's just be a little bit more reasonable on our expectations of people's role in this.
Let me ask you this.
Talk to me.
My general view of the relationship between vendors and enterprise is vendors are innovators and they bring new technologies and they try to fit it into an organization.
Yeah.
Where I've seen, and back in the day I built Semantic SIM.
Yeah.
And I connected with some organizations that were trying to build their own.
Yeah.
And that understanding of what they were trying to build connected to what I was trying to build helped me build something better.
Yeah.
But, and I don't know if you know Laz, but Laz was at Sears. Lazarikis Demetrius was at Sears. He was a CISO there, built basically an enterprise grade SIM that fit his culture, fit his operations. Nothing I could build at Semantic would do that and also serve the rest of the market. So my question to you is, do you hear from enterprises programs that work for them with human risk management in mind that perhaps vendors can't meet unless it's a bespoke thing? Or are there innovations that you're hearing that support a culture for the enterprise that might apply to a broader?
For me, human risk management is it's highly adaptive to the people it's serving and to the organizations it's serving. Where I think one of the downfalls of security awareness and training is it's not, and it had to be highly customized, if that makes sense. Whereas when you're adapting everything to every single individual based on their risk profile, the risk they're exposed to, exposing themselves to, exposing the organization to, that's a game changer. And then it becomes a little bit less about it becomes actually 100% about the needs of the organization and then the individuals.
Because the example I'm thinking as we're talking here is there's security you can layer on top, there's security you can shim in, there's security you can put on the back end to catch stuff, and then there's within the HR system, within the workflow, there's security, right? And that's or within finance, or within product development, or within sale, or whatever, to marketing. And so I guess my point is that almost that the business applications need to have security awareness training in there.
Awareness and training, or security.
Awareness, security and awareness. Yeah. So when behavior is not matching the policy, it's within the process.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And wouldn't it be amazing if it happens at the right time, at the point of behavior?
Right. So we see that in email.
Yes.
To some degree.
Yes, we do.
Do we see it anywhere else?
Yeah. Not yet.
Not yet.
No, not yet. So and we will start seeing that. We'll start seeing it. We see it sometimes in DLP, in data. So you're sending yourself an email to your email account. But you've got to think when it comes to humans. So we're writing research with my colleague Jess Byrne. I don't know if you've spoken to her ever. She's amazing. But we're writing research on deconstructing human element breaches. What do you think of when you think of human element breaches?
Somebody click on something that's not supposed to click and fill up a form or whatever.
Yep. Anything else?
I
just think generally data exposure. But
yeah, it's really interesting. So most people think of social engineering, phishing, clicking links, the human error sometimes. So you expose data and you have data exposure. And certainly when you look at things like the DBIR or in Australia, the Office of Information Commissioner, they release an annual notifiable breach report. Human element breaches are defined differently by ENISA, OAIC, DBIR. And you know that percentage, 64% of breaches are related to the human element, 98%. I have been incorrectly misquoted as saying something like 90% of human it's like, oh my God, where are you getting these figures? And I suspected that there's a lot more to human element breaches than just clicking on links. And lo and behold, we're about to publish that research early next year. We have created the wheel of human element breaches. There are 8 categories. One of them is social engineering. One of them is human error. But there's 6 others, including the way that currently humans can misuse generative AI, for example, by entering PII in ChatGPT, including humans being targeted with deepfakes, malinformation, misinformation, and several insider risks.
Manipulation.
So this is the problem, and it's a sizable problem, and it's one that we don't really know how deep it is, how broad it is. And we really need to, before we start diving into solution, we've got to anchor ourselves in the problem.
So from all these, it almost, and you went there, I mean, even you, Sean, talking now, like it's almost look like the training should start the moment that you get into the business environment. Now we need to teach people how not to click on email, not to do things. But then I go back to, it's not just when you're studying for the car, it should come from much earlier, from an education that it becomes a culture before you even go into the working environment. Because I mean, the human element risk is in your life as well, is in your family, is in your personal life. And nobody's teaching to kids in school hygiene, cyber hygiene, and not to do certain things, and who is up that too. So what I'm saying is maybe if people will come a little bit more prepare before entering the workforce. I'm not going to say it's going to be easy, but easier, maybe.
Or maybe if we coach people as they go through life.
Yeah, exactly.
When they're making decisions that are less than optimal. Yeah. There's always going to be room for proactive education, communication. But as you're making, and I'll give you an example, and I'm going to be delivering this at our keynote in Baltimore in a couple of weeks' time. So I have an issue with sleeping. I haven't slept for a decade, and and I've tried reading all of the books about sleeping. Am I better slept? No. I invested in a continuous glucose monitor that showed the relationship between glucose spikes, sleeping, that whole data-driven approach to showing you exactly what behaviors you need to change in order to achieve goal. Game changer for me. And in the keynote, I talk about the example of my husband, who love him to pieces, but he's so annoying sometimes. And one of his most annoying traits, he sleeps for 9.5 hours every bloody
night. He was once in Japan and he slept through an earthquake in Tokyo.
I can do that. I can do that.
But imagine, yes, well, bless you. But imagine if we gave you and my husband a book about sleeping, when what you really need, or what he needs, is a book on how to be a less annoying husband. And that's then...
that sounds like my wife.
And that, yes, and that then becomes the data-driven conversation, right? Do you see the difference? But what we're doing in security, we're giving everybody books on sleeping.
Not everybody needs the same thing.
Not everybody needs to learn to sleep. Some people exhibit amazing cyberspace behavior. We do not need to train these people on all the things all the time. And how do you know who is exhibiting cybersafe behavior and who's not? Human risk management. You do so by integrating, by understanding the entirety of the person's identity, the person's behavior, the person's susceptibility to exposure, and the person's knowledge of cybersecurity.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Absolutely. I had a conversation about the educational system.
Yeah.
With the use of technology to become more targeted according to the need of the kids in the class. Not everybody needs to learn the same thing the same way.
In the same way.
It's the same thing. We just assume that everybody is at this level, and that's what we teach.
Correct. And when you look, then this is when I get excited. So human risk management is right now, like we're still just in the education pieces. Like, you know, you need pictures, I need to explain to you, but where the vendors are at, where the disruption is at, they're now starting to be able to correlate people's behaviors, but also how they're responding to different interventions. So you, Marco, are you going to be better if I give you a 2-hour training course, or just a little nudge and a coach, or to leave you alone? What's going to work better for you? Which is exactly what you're saying about in the classroom. It's like different people have different learning needs. That is so cool. Imagine scaling that in the old security awareness and training.
And imagine that coming up on a personal level by a behavioral study, maybe through AI. So my iPhone is going to tell me, hey, don't click on that.
That's human risk management. That's it. That is,
or on the computer. Or
hey, did you mean to send everybody that file titled redundancy, or you know, was that on purpose?
I have so many questions.
It's such an exciting.
I love it because it's really the convergence of understanding the human psyche,
and doing it technologically.
Using technology for what can be improving our humanity, right? An extension of our capabilities, and not either fighting it or leveling. I love this. I love where you're going with this.
Yes. Well, not where it's where the market needs to go. And, you know, you asked some really interesting questions before about, well, you know, should vendors push this on enterprise? And I'm of the view that vendors do need to push a little bit harder, actually. So we've just published the evaluation of human risk management, the 9 vendors that matter the most. I think that was 2 months ago. And one of the things that really came out is, so we've innovated. We've just spent 2 years, the vendors have innovated. They've got these shiny new products that we're still educating the market on. It's really exciting. But where rubber is going to hit the fan is how are they going to help enterprise adopt? How are they going to help convince enterprise that actually, can you just stop doing this the old way? There is a better new way. And I do think that is the responsibility of vendors, which some vendors vehemently disagree with me on. They're like, oh, but our clients aren't asking us for this. And I don't know. It's really, they're not asking us for this. I don't know where the budget is going to come from. It's not the security awareness and training team. We'll figure it out because we need this.
I'm sorry, but the market sometimes doesn't ask for the better things.
No, it wants faster horses.
Exactly.
It does, and it's really, you know, it's difficult for them though. I'm sitting here in a privileged position of being an analyst. I don't have to make money out of a product. I don't have to make some of these go-to-market decisions that they're making. But I would love to see us do better.
Yep, and I think with that,
I know. We're going to have to wrap. I have questions all around the CISO's responsibility.
We'll have Jinan back again.
I mean,
there's technology. We can connect with her even when we're not here, although it is very nice to be here.
It is.
Yeah, it is so nice to be. It's so good to be in person. It's so good. Yeah.
Well, you're invited back. I'll try to remember all the questions in my head. We'll bring those up again.
We didn't even touch on burnout or any of the... I mean, I want to say cool stuff, but no.
No. We'll do a follow-up.
Yeah.
We'll do a follow-up.
You're welcome anytime, as you know, but we'll make it a point to get something on the calendar.
Thank you.
And we'll keep this conversation going. For now, that's it for us here with Jinan, anyway, from AU CyberCon. Thanks for joining us here, listening and watching. Please do share and subscribe. Stay tuned for more.
ThreatLocker is a zero-trust endpoint protection platform, providing enterprise-level cybersecurity to organizations globally. With ThreatLocker, you only allow what you need and block everything else, including ransomware. Learn more at threatlocker.com. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Sean and Marco's on-location event coverage conversations. Please take a moment to give the show a good rating and leave a comment. Remember to share this podcast with your friends, family, and colleagues. Come back for more conversations and follow Sean Martin and Marco Ciappelli as they continue their journey toward redefining cybersecurity and society.